Say hi, beauty. Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Karen with my channel KC. Thank you for joining me. Today is Tuesday mornings with KC, and it's a freestyle. I don't know what the topic is or what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna freestyle it. Okay. So let me start out with a prayer. Mother, Father, Spirit, I call on the great white brotherhood of light and peace will take order of as to connect to my audience, to my guides and their guides too. Thank you. Get down, beauty. Get down. Get down. Okay, so we are here. We are connected. Prayers are done, and I'm looking at decks. What do we want? I want to see The Way of the Cartouche is calling to me by Murray Hope. Let's see what these cards have to say and where they're going to take us. What are the energies that we're dealing with for this reading on this Tuesday morning? Okay. Wow. Thoth, wisdom. The Egyptian god of medicine, of wisdom, of meditation, of the inner psychic realms. Thoth. Let me read from the book what that's about. Card number 5. Okay. The symbol is the caduceus, and I guess that's what this is. We know it as the medical symbol, but actually originated in Egyptian time. As far as I know, the Lord of Time, keeper of the Akashic records, scribe to the gods, patron of healers. The hieroglyph is the ibis, and the nature is movable. Keywords for instant reference are fate, karma, healing, health, law, scholarship, education. And that would be higher education and higher law. So if we're talking law, we're not talking the lower courts, we're talking the Supreme Court. If we're talking education, we're not talking college, we're talking graduate school, law school. And reverse, the meaning is misfortune, health, conceit, quackery, pseudo-intellectuality. So pretending like you really have the knowledge and the information when you're just using whatever you can to get by, to get over, to convince and put up a front. But we didn't get it to reverse, we got it straight up. So we're going to focus on fate and karma, health and healing, law, scholarship, and education. When I think about those things, the one that stands out for me, or the pair that stands out to me, is fate and karma. We are in a heavy time of fate and karma right now. Saturn's doing some major stuff in the sky. He is direct, I believe, right now, or he's going to go direct soon. I believe he just turned direct. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And if you know exactly when, would you post that for me? I'm not totally up on it, but I know that Saturn is the Lord of karma, and that people who have been acting authentically and honestly and within their realm of authenticity, they will be rewarded. So karma can be something that benefits you, or it could be something that's detrimental in order to move you to what you need in order to have a higher understanding of things. So if you've been acting out of the correct laws of nature, out of the correct laws of what you know to be right and wrong, and you've been serving and doing the best you can by the people in your life, then you can expect to have beneficial karma coming. Which Jupiter has a part to play in that as well. People call it luck, but it all wraps together. So Jupiter is not going to give you great gifts and benefits if you are not in alignment with living your truth, with living the truth, versus trying to put up a fake persona just to get by. Okay, so that's enough on that for now. I'm going to next go to Carolyn Mrs. Archetype cards, because I want to see more about what the archetype energy is that this reading is referring to. And they're telling me it's more than one. Okay, so we're dealing with more than one archetype in terms of energy. First one is the wounded child, which the light attributes are: awakens compassion and a desire to serve others. Wounded children opens the learning path of forgiveness. And the shadow attribute is blames all dysfunctional relationships on childhood wounds, resists moving on through forgiveness. So either you're going to forgive and move on, or you're going to stay stuck and repeat the lessons of the karma of the karma that you created. It's going to just be a repeating cycle until you choose to heal that wounded child and forgive and move on, is what I'm getting out of that archetype. And the next archetype that we're dealing with is child nature. Light attributes are friendship with animals, communication with nature. And the shadow attributes are tendency to abuse animals, people, and the environment. And this is no joke. Really, there are people who just, for whatever reason, feel a need to abuse animals. And I'm not talking like dog fights for money or chicken cock fights for money. I'm talking about people who just want to hurt and inflict pain upon animals just for the hell of it. I have some people that I've observed this shadow attribute in my family. So I know that it's an indication of something that is very deep and very much out of balance. And it can create a great deal of karma in the form that you really don't want in your life. But yeah, that's the shadow attribute. And the light attribute is friendship with animals, communication with nature spirits. So the light attribute for me is that I've been getting the need and the urge to go out and be in nature, to hike, to just commune and ground myself for past couple of months in a heavy way. Nature is the great healer. Nature is the great healer. Mother Earth is the best healer of them all. I mean, everything that we get from medicine, we get from the earth. We may mix it up and chemically change it to suit certain purposes, but it all comes from the earth. And so just by being in the environment of nature and by being around animals, perhaps feeding, serving, caring for them, playing with them, is going to be of great benefit to the shadow attribute to help heal those shadow attributes of, the tendency to abuse animal and people and the environment, and to blame all dysfunctional relationships on childhood wounds, resisting moving on through forgiveness. So the bottom line is the nature is going to help us to heal the wounded child. It's going to help us to move on. It's going to help us to forgive. Don't ask me how, but nature has its ways. It kind of reminds me of the tarot reader on YouTube by the name of Saltwater Hills. Well, it's no freaking lie. Salt water does heal. I mean, you take salt water baths for spiritual purposes to help alleviate negativity and to clear your aura and to heal yourself. You go into the ocean and you actually get cleansed from the salt water. So yeah, nature is really powerful, and that's just one way. I want to, we have two archetypes out of all of these cards. We have two that are talking about the child. So I'd have to say that there's also some issues around pregnancy and whether or not the pregnancy is healthy, they're telling me. There's a concern around someone who is pregnant and whether they're going to be having a healthy baby, and whether the pregnancy is going to be okay for them to carry through. That there's some issues around fertility and things of that nature, and that working with nature, working with your own wounded child is going to help you in solving and healing those issues so that you can manifest the most healthy-ish child, the most healthy-ish experience for your inner child and your child to be as possible. I'm pulling from Archangel Oracle cards by Doreen Virtue, and what popped out is teaching and learning. It says, keep an open mind and learn new ideas, then teach them to others. And I see that you're going to be learning new ideas as it has to do with nature, as it has to do with healing the wounded child, as it has to do with working with children in some shape or form. And they want you to breathe. Take several deep breaths and exhale slowly so that your energy to release, slowly to awaken your energy and to release old patterns. So when you're in nature, one of the exercises that's really simple that you can do is to find what feels like a really good place for you to sit. It could be on a rock, it could be on the ground under a tree, it could be at a bench, wherever you feel called to. You go there, you sit, and you ask the nature spirits to support you in healing your child, in healing your wounded child. You ask your nature spirit to help you in bringing out the light attributes of your child nature and healing the wounded ones, the ones that are the shadow aspects. While you're sitting in the spot of your choice, you might want to burn some incense or some sage and as an offering to the nature spirits. You might want to thank the environment that you're in for blessing and protecting you while you do the sacred work, while you connect. And you want to take several deep breaths as you're intending to allow forgiveness into your heart, as you're intending to open your heart so that you can forgive, so that you can heal your wounded child, so that you can heal the shadow aspects of the nature of the child nature. So you take several deep breaths and you exhale slowly to awaken your energy, your light energy, your light attributes of the child. Specifically, this is your intention as you're sitting in this spot. You could call it a power place if you like. And then you want to release as you breathe out the old patterns. And as you breathe out, you want to do what's called, or what I have been trained to know as healing breaths. And they are when you breathe in through your nose, and as you're breathing in, you're taking a deep breath with the intent to heal your wounded child and your child nature, the shadow attributes. So you're going to breathe in deeply, you're going to hold it, and then you're going to breathe out through your mouth. That's called a cleansing breath, or at least that's how I was taught. And you're going to do several of those with in mind that you want to accentuate your light attributes as it comes to your child. Friendship with animals, communing with nature spirits, awakening compassion and the desire to serve other wounded children, opening the learning path. So the other thing that's coming to me as I'm sitting here and listening, they're telling me that another great thing that you could do in nature is to pour libation. And libation, pour libation to your ancestors, pour libation to the nature spirits, pour libation to your guides who are supporting you, who are helping to heal you, who are responsible for getting you from A to Z on a pathway of ascension. Pour libation. Libation is when you take a liquid. In the hood, brothers or people who are the young people, before they took a drink, they used to take and pour into a cap of whatever they were drinking a little bit onto the ground, and they'd say for the brothers who have passed on or for the people who were passed on. That's pouring libation to your ancestors, and they did it with alcohol. But how I do it is with water. I take a glass of water or a cup of water, and I take a live plant, or I go to a tree outside and I pour a little bit to in acknowledgement of my ancestors, of people who have passed on. I ask that my families individually, that my daughters, guides and mentors and sheps, I call them sheps, which are beneficent ancestors, assist her. And then I say that for each of the members of my family. I ask for blessings from their sheps, from each of their families. So you can do that, and you could pour libation to the nature spirits at a tree when you're outside. You could go to a sacred site and pour libation. I've actually been away at a retreat and didn't know this at the time, but when I got there, realized that there was a native burial ground that was up a hill. It looked like a mountain to me, but it was really a hill, and they were calling to me. I could hear them. The spirits in that burial ground were calling to me. And so I took a trek. I got my water bottle and I filled it up, and I put my hiking shoes on, and I climbed that hill. And when I got to the top, what I saw was mounds and mounds of rock. Like there was a mound of rock, and it was a body up under the rock. And then there was another mound with bodies. So that's how the native people were buried. And I knew immediately, I didn't know it was a graveyard at the time before I climbed up there, but when I got up there and I saw it, I knew that I was on sacred ground, and I knew that I needed to pour libation right then and there to those spirits for their peace, for their rest, for their passage on. Something deep inside of me told me that. I don't know what. But when I left that burial ground, after doing that, I have now with me in terms of spirits that protect me, a spirit that is from that graveyard, who stayed with me and who protects me whenever I'm in danger or am feeling afraid. I can call on that spirit. I know the spirit's name, but for privacy purposes, I'm not going to state that. But I'm just telling you this story so that you can know that you absolutely can connect with nature spirits. You can ask for healing. There are many different ways you can go about healing yourself. And evidently, this is all about healing the child and the children in your life and working with children and nature. So, there. That's that. So now, I want to do a fairy oracle, the fairy oracle by Brian Ford, because I associate the fairy realm with Mother Nature, very much so. And so we're going to take a minute to pull a few cards from this oracle. The Father Spirit, please advise in terms of working with nature spirits, in terms of working with healing the wounded child and the shadow attributes of the child and children in our family and in our lineage, our grandchildren, our sons, our daughters, our inner child. Please advise what it is that we need to, that's going to assist us. Please advise how we can, oh, okay, we have two. No, we have three. We have four. Wow. Okay. So these are the four. This came reverse. This came reverse. This is upright and this is upright. So I'm gonna start with the Glinkona reversed to see what they're talking about there. The Glinkona. Have you ever noticed that when we really, really want someone or something, we tend to see it without clarity? The object of our lust looks flawless and glamorous, which should tell us something right away, but it doesn't. He says his name is Smooth Harry, but that may be a little illusion of his own, unlike the Pook. The Glinkona doesn't change his shape to tempt us with our own mental confusion or paradoxes. He simply wears a mirror in which we see our desires temptively displayed. He doesn't try to fool us. He simply allows us to fool ourselves. Well, he may try just a little, just to make the test a little more difficult. After all, we can be more proud of passing a difficult test than an easy one, can't we? Smooth Harry also appeals to our vanity, and the more we have of it, the easier his work is. A little flattery, and we'll believe whatever he wants us to swallow, especially since it's just what we want to swallow anyway. Of all the fairy challengers, Smooth Harry is most likely to be sly. He practices a sort of emotional judo where he lets our own desires lead us into a fall. As we rush headlong towards our vision of perfection, he needs only to step to one side as we cast ourselves at him, and down we go. Not fun, but maybe perhaps we might just learn something from it. So, the reverse meaning of this card says someone is pretending to be the other than who they really are. They may even believe, or at least want to believe, their own deceit, but probably not. The pretense may be because they want to please others, because they lack the moral strength to present themselves and their ideas honestly, or because they simply hope to gain advantage by fooling others. Sometimes people fool themselves into thinking they are better than others, and it is therefore all right for them to deceive. Although that is invalid logic, it is not uncommon. Vanity can be involved here, especially vanity based on something we know deep down to be untrue. False words like unmet apologies may arise. False words like unmet apologies may arise. Like someone apologizes to you, but they don't mean it. Or we may claim that something means little to us when in fact it means a great deal. The others involved in the situation need to wake up and notice what is really happening instead of allowing themselves to be fooled. The situation needs to be handled with care, lest in an awakening have very explosive destructive effects. The pretender is the querent. She urgently needs to begin to present her true self and true ideas before things get much worse, as they certainly will, with ensuing crisis being even more devastating. This is the time to call upon honesty for aid. Okay, so when I was reading this card, I distinctly got characteristics of narcissism, of someone who lies and presents a false illusion because they're weak, because they have to protect themselves. And how they know and how they've come to do this is through illusion. And someone who is emotionally deficient, someone who can't handle normal emotions. They get overly offended. And so, but they don't want to let anyone know because that would be showing a weakness. And if they show a weakness, then they won't be able to survive. They'll be taken advantage of as the fear, or somehow that'll be the end of them as the fear, because they can't really survive without the adoration and attention of others. They must have that at all costs, they feel. So it's a person whose mental is extremely out of balance, and that can certainly happen in childhood, especially if there was abuse of some sort or neglect early in childhood. When a person is their most vulnerable and their most vulnerable state is when you're a child. You don't have control over your environment. You don't have control over your circumstances, and you have something egregious, something violent, something that takes your safety, your basic feeling of safety and confidence away, then you can develop false manipulative tactics in order to survive, because you believe that that's how you have to survive, and it becomes conditioned within you, and you become so damaged and conditioned to the lower vibrations and to surviving in a particular way that is not true to who you are, that is what you do. And it gets deep, because it's like the more you use those tactics that you learn and the logic to explain why you were hurt and how you survived, the more pathology around the things that you do, around your shadow side, comes out, and the more you start to live a lie. Excuse me. So that's what I think about the Glen Coda card reverse and the message that it had to say. Now, the next card is Lays of the Shadows, and that's 44. So again, we're talking shadow work, and it is reversed. So I'm just going to healing the shadows, addictions, bondage, and self-esteem. So this is the card that deals with going back and healing that child, healing that what feels like bondage, because you're so embarrassed, you're so ashamed that you can't share who you really are. You can't share what really happened, and so she deals with this. This fairy deals with this reverse. This card signifies bondage to addictions, compulsive and self-destructive behavior, anger directed towards self and probably others, a hitting the bottom of the cycle. It may even seem that there is no possible way up. It can also indicate false friends who lead one astray. Separation, loneliness, and isolation are also usually present. A person may sink to this level because of feeling guilt. If so, she needs to consider the value of atonement, at one with self, instead of dividing ourselves into judge, criminal, and executioner. It is not always possible to make reparation to those we have hurt, but it's always possible to begin working at developing better balance with the cosmos through action. We can, for example, work to help others who may have been similarly hurt. This takes courage and determination, but through such action, self-respect can be regained. The singers of courage and healing are with us if we open ourselves to them. Helping others is a way of opening our hearts. But let me say, as I was reading this, clearly what I got was that a lot of times people who are in such a damaged position, when they go to try to make amends or to do something that is altruistic, they wrap it right back into their survival mechanisms that drove them to become addicts, that drove them to become abusers. And so they use it as another fake mask. Oh, I'm helping battered women, but yet you are a batterer of women, is what a lot of times this shows up as when you go to try to do that. So my firm belief is that if you really want to make reparation, if you really want to make amends for the damage that you've caused, the best place and the only place to start, I didn't say to finish, but to start, and it may be a long, very slow start, depending on how damaged you are, is with yourself. There's no other place that you can go. We all must look ourselves in the mirror and be accountable for our own stuff. And if we just did that, if every individual on the planet just took accountability for their own stuff and dealt with their own stuff, was committed to a process of dealing with their own stuff, not like, oh, I looked at it, I did it, now it's done. No, doing the work to heal in nature, doing the work to make amends, without getting credit for it. Those type things are the things that I'm talking about that we could do and start to do to help heal ourselves and then others and then the world as at large. Okay. So the next card we have is card 39, and I can't, Lesguana? I'm not sure. Let me go take a look at her. She's upright. Card 39. Lasguana. Sunken treasury, discovery of self, adventure. So like I said, this is what we're talking here, is dealing with the self first, going inward and digging up the true self, the damaged self, the wounded child, healing that child, the child that, taking that child to nature, playing with animals, taking care of and serving in some way nature, is what we're talking about here. And the reading for her says, tell us to pay attention to our dreams, to listen to the murmurs of the waters, to note the patterns in the damp fallen leaves, to listen for distant high sounds of angelic music among the stars. She also suggests soothing baths, hot tubs, jacuzzis, trips to the nearest spa or hot springs, a dip in the handiest sea, pond, or mountain lake. Mud baths also help us quiet down and become strong enough to explore her territory, which is the earth and the waters, from the depths to the heights. As important as it is to explore the inner realms, she tells us that exploration of the outer realms is also vital. She suggests that we go places we have never been, try things we've never done, take classes in subjects we've always meant to study, someday maybe even learn a language and see where that takes us, explore widely and deeply in our own world so that we develop the adventurousness of our spirits. It almost goes without saying that she recommends exploring fairy. She also suggests kissing any metaphorical or actual frogs you encounter to test for prince or princesses, but I don't know how seriously you want to take that suggestion. So, what they're telling me about this card is that yes, do those things, try those things, and it brought up a level of gradients. Not all of us are so severely damaged that we're addicts, and some of us are. Not all of us are emotionally like shut down to a point that we cause pain to ourselves and others. But there are levels in our lives where all of us are susceptible to these things. And so to do things that she is suggesting will make us more aware of where our shortfalls or our deficits are, and it'll fill us up in a healthy way. And the last card is Avriel Parrots. And let me read that to you. It's card number 50. Arvo Parrot. And it deals with strictly communication, and the card came upright. So, clear communications are vitally important here. Strive for verbal brilliance. Listen carefully. Be articulate. Be willing to calmly debate the issue and explore ideas with others. Open communications will enhance the chances of success all around. Avro also suggests the current watch for body language, incomplete sentences, and unfinished thoughts, and try to discover what these signals are meant to get across. Communication comes in many forms, and I like to say listen and communicate. First, listen like an octopus with many tentacles going in many different directions in the spirit realm, in the physical, in the body language realm, in the what's coming out of the person's mouth realm. But not just that, like take all of those things into consideration, and then as you do, then communicate in mind with the audience in mind that you're communicating to, because there is always a context into which we are speaking, and we need to be aware and sensitive to the context that we're speaking into. And we can understand the context by testing the ground and saying something in a certain way, or taking a conversation in a certain direction, but slowly, but gently. And if a person has a great aversion, or if you understand that the person can't deal with that, whatever it is you're talking about at that point, then withdraw, because the context in which you're speaking is not a fertile ground for receptivity, for them to hear it. The people will hear what they want to hear, no matter what it is that's coming out of your mouth. And it's your responsibility to be aware of that, and when it's happening, when it's being received, and when it's not. And maybe to allow yourself to be flexible, to shift, and use different tactics of communicating what it is, or maybe just not communicate. Maybe it's just not the time. So this is the reading that I have for today, and I think we're pretty much summing up everything. I want to get one more deck. Actually, maybe two. I want to see the Less Vampires deck because the vampires, they talk about, having to use blood to survive and the context in which they do it in these cards. It's really interesting. So when we're dealing with the wounded, someone who needs something, who's lacking something, I think a lot of times about these cards. So let me, Spirit, please give us a comment on what it is we're dealing here with this child. And again, we have two. We have Immortal, the consuming family pressure appears, which is a lot of times the wounds occur as a child. They come from generational wounds, they turn into generational curses such as alcoholism, abuse, whether it be sexual or physical or both. These things are passed down through our families. So the consuming family and pressures of peers to remain in that pattern, to not bring it up, to not heal it because it's not important or because that's just the way it is. And if you do look at it, then somehow that's putting a bad reflection on the family is what I'm getting from this card. And the other card is Seduction, Allure, Desire, and Manipulation. Allure, desire, and manipulation. I want to read out of the book, but we know that when you're putting on a fake front because you've been hurt and you feel that you have to lie, cheat, steal, or create illusion around yourself in order to survive, in order to get what you need, in order to be healthy, then there's a level of manipulation involved. And a lot of times people use their seduction prowess to do that. So let me talk about this card. You are now able to discern much more clearly between people who are healthy for you and people who you would do well to avoid. You are no longer feeling guilty for saying no to attractive advances. The curse of the card is, it is time to reassess friendship or the kinds of people and situations you find attractive. Are you inviting unwelcome dramas and situations into your life? So, this card in the light part of the seduction is talking about being able to stand your ground and see beyond the superficial beauty of the offer or the advance or the sexiness of the person or the way that they have with words that just seduce you. It's being able to see beyond that and to know what it is that really matters to you, and when someone is coming at you from a level of respect and authenticity versus just trying to manipulate and milk you for whatever it is that they see of value. So those are the cards that I have for this reading today. I'd like to thank everyone for being with me. Please hit like, subscribe, and comment to let me know what you think of these readings. I really appreciate it. I hope that something was of value to you. I wish you all, you beautiful people, an amazing and safe day. Have a good Tuesday. Bye.